Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Snoop says, good morning, Don. First time made it to live stream. Thank you for everything you do. Really love your principle-driven decision-making in crypto and in personal real life. Well, thanks for the nice message, man. Appreciate it. And thanks for coming by. Also appreciate that. TechnicalRoundup during CPI numbers, my mans. Yeah. Who the fuck cares about that? We're crypto, my bros. We're crypto. So, yeah. We don't care about no numbers. We care about number go up or number go down. It's the only thing we care about. When DonAlt trader, dude, I'm hanging on by a thread. Last night I was awake 5 hours because my daughter wouldn't sleep unless her tummy was like rubbed in a certain way and I was holding her hand. So I was doing that for 5 hours last night. You will not see me near any green or red buttons anytime soon until that stops. I would like to. I'm getting a little bit of an itch, but we shall not. It's probably gonna be like that for a little while. She's teething now on top of everything, like proper teething. So yeah, you're not gonna. You cannot convince me. You guys can do whatever the fuck you want. Knock yourself out. I'm on vacation, forced vacation, but still vacation. Doug, you're not scared of missing the bull? No, don't care. I mean, there's a bull and there's a bear market. Like, who cares? Like, look how many bull and bear markets there've been. There's always a next bull or bear market. There's always a narrative that will drive the market up or down. So who cares at the end of the day? Like, just give it some time. I mean, obviously it's nicer if you make a shitload of money during the bull market, but if you don't, I'll try next time. Hey Don, I bought a house thanks to you. That's a very nice thing to see. Happy for you, man. Congrats on being a homeowner. But yeah, before we start the show properly, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring it. I really appreciate their support. Go check them out. Links are in the description. They've been amazing partners. So if you want to support us, support them. And yeah, I couldn't be happier. Hey Donna, I sold the house because of you. I mean, I'm hoping you wanted to sell it and you didn't get margin called or liquidated or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's that. Setup still not properly set up. So if anything malfunctions, including the internet, excuse me. Nothing I can do about it. All the electricity and all that kind of stuff is getting checked soon. So, but so far so good, no issues. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, the market has bounced a little. Like it's been, we had this FUD week of everyone was looking at the GBTC sells and they're like, okay, they have infinite Bitcoin to sell. We're going to zero. And that got engulfed towards the end of the week. We closed green and now we've moved up a little. So we have a little bit of things to talk about. So there's at least that. And on the monthly time frame, nothing happened. Monthly looks exactly the same as last week and the week before. It's actually quite crazy when you think about it. Like we got the biggest news event that we were all waiting for a long time. And all it did was lead to a monthly that went a little bit up, a little bit down, and is now where it opens. That's quite crazy. It's very rare that you get these kind of big anticipated events and then price just doesn't move. I think that's quite good in general for the bulls. It's an argument I made before, like 2 or 3 months ago, where I was like, the best thing that could happen is if it just goes sideways because of all the GBTC selling, because of all the news selling, right? And I mean, when you have an asset that goes up 2x, 3x from the bottom into kind of like a very obvious news event, almost everyone would expect some sort of a news selling, right? Like people front run it and then the people just sell because it makes sense, right? basically gifted money. That's the trade that I took from 20 to 30, like not 20, but 24-ish, 25 to 37. So I was like, I'm just buying a bunch of Bitcoin, holding it for the people that will buy after me because of the news, and then give them back once price is higher. You know what I mean? Like, so it was anticipated, and a lot of people took advantage of it by just buying a bunch. But apparently, they kind of just priced the whole thing in, like perfectly priced in. Market moved up and then went sideways. So the market doing what it's supposed to for a change, which is quite nice. I'm not hating. So yeah, that's the monthly time frame. Like I said, still 35K biggest support. If we ever get there, that's a buy. If we don't, well, tough luck, just how it goes. It's never guaranteed that you get a support just because you like it. And then in terms of resistances, we're struggling with 44 right now. That's where we've been getting rejected, 44, 45K. That's the midpoint of the range. If that breaks, the only thing that is really left is the top of the range, which is 60K, which is straightforward enough. I think generally it could go up, come back down, and then go further up. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. In general, I expected Q1 to be boring. So far, it has been boring, but it's kind of pushing. It's kind of trying to make it not too boring. So maybe I'll be wrong on that front. Because what we've been doing is we've been bouncing from the bottom of the range, rallying into the top of the range, and yeah, it's been pretty much just range bound, but it's quite a tight range, right? Like if you compare it to all the ranges, like that's a range here. It's like from top to bottom, that's a like almost 2x, pretty much actually a 2x, or 50% down, however you want to look at it, whether you want to be a bull or a bear tart. This one much smaller, right? Like this range is quite small, and you'd expect it to break. Stop it. You'd expect it to break soon. 6%, nothing to write home about. But like I said, in the face of all the shit that has been thrown at us, I mean, we've also had positive news. Obviously, the ETF going well is obviously positive news. But in general, like the GBTC selling, the front running of the news, just in general, like profit taking, hasn't really done anything. And I think the most conservative, or like, it's not really super conservative, but it's one of the more sane plays, I think. Like either you just buy the range low and hope, or you buy a deep retrace level, 32K being the best one. We don't really have any supports on the way there, but also like, it seems quite unlikely at this point that we're going to get to 32. Could just go to 35 or not even go to 35, right? But anyway, like those are the two dip levels right now. But then you also have a breakout level that you could trade, and that is above 44, because basically we have a range here quite tight. And if you saw on the lower time frames a move like this, then this is literally just what every one of us saw in stupid TA books that are all quite useless, but still, if you saw this in lower time frames and move up into consolidation, you'd expect kind of like a push up. So if this is a bullish market and we break out of here, and we start closing above the range high, you would expect this to run, right? And then where does it run to? 60K seems to be the best resistance that we have. So maybe that. If it breaks down, maybe we get 32 or 35. I think at that point 35 would make a lot of sense if we broke down. So depending on where this goes, I think conservative people, or like, I mean, breakout traders, whatever you want to call whoever trades this kind of stuff, have a trade, and it's quite a nice one, I think. Like usually I don't like breakout trading too much, this, given it's such a small range and such a nice invalidation, right? Let's say this breaks out here, closes at 46. Like you can have your invalidation at 40-ish, target 60, right? And that's like, let's say you get somewhat like this, and you have your invalidation somewhere down here, and you're obviously, like, if the market closes back in the range, you just close the trade for tiny loss. That's a decent trade, right? This is not bad. And even if you want to be more conservative and just be like this, given its breakout, you don't want to go below the low, it's still a decent trade. And obviously the opposite, if we lose the range and go down, like, I'm not talking, hey, you need to wait for a retest, whatever. It's just pretty much straight up a trade. You have the same kind of setup, and you could either target 35 if you're not as aggressive, and this one would be a little bit tighter, or 32. And I think the short is the worst trade out of both of them. I think in general, like the way I would trade it, if it broke down, is I would just try to long 35 to 32. If I get 32, like something like this, and then trade this. And I think that seems quite sane. And I mean, I could even make this like this. Still a very good trade. Quite wide stop loss, whatever. If you're trading spot, it doesn't really matter. And then go from there. And if the weekly or the monthly closes below the levels, can jump out. So like that's kind of a trade for all scenarios, which I usually make fun of, like when people do this, where they're like, if it does this, do this, and blah blah blah, because it's just a shit strategy. But in this case, I think it's quite straightforward. It's basically a bunch of people are positioning themselves in this range, and they're betting on whether it's like bullshit sell the news thing, or if it's actually sell the news thing, a sell the news event, whatever. And I think whoever is mispositioned is going to be mispositioned quite hard, and then you can take advantage of it. Right now, looks a little bit better for the bulls, I would say. Dawn, if Bitcoin closes above 44k daily, will you come back to trade Bitcoin? Nah, I'm too fucked. I don't want to add the stress of having to trade on top of it all. Like analyzing is one thing, and I think a lot of people kind of just underestimate this. But it's easy to say, like look at the chart and be like, oh, this is gonna go up, this is gonna go down. But actually trading it takes a little bit more out of you. And I mean, I gotta say, like, even getting to do the streams is like at the limit of my possibilities right now. All respect to all parents, because fucking hell, that's a battlefield. Especially now, right now we have guests, and that adds another layer to all of it, because then, like, if my fiance takes care of the guests, I take care of the child, and then, or like our baby, and then obviously just generally have a more, and then I have to do more, and then it's more tiresome, but also quite lovely. Our little one is very, very adorable in all things besides sleeping. Fucking hell, I don't know how someone or something can be so cute all the time and then be a demon when it comes to sleeping. But yeah, so like I don't want to add anything to that, and I'm just, if that makes my opinion meaningless, which I think to an extent it does, because something that I like to say is, like, I mean, you can say like this is gonna go up or down, but if you're not willing to bet money on it, I mean, what kind of, like, that just seems a little bit useless. But right now, that's just how it's gonna be. Can we all chip in and buy Don a vacation? Dude, I was on a vacation. It was the worst few days of my life. At home, it's so much easier. Hey Don, bad earnings in tech yesterday. Anything you're paying attention to with respect to broader markets? No, I have my hands full with crypto alone, and I don't think it really matters too much. Like, look, today the S&P is down 0.5%. The weekly is down. The last 2 days been down. Look at Bitcoin. Like that's been just pushing. It's been okay. Obviously, if the S&P giga nukes, especially given where we are at with Bitcoin right now, on the weekly time frame at resistance, on the daily time frame, we'll talk about this, also at resistance, that would not help. But I think there's more edge in crypto than there is in traditional markets. So it's easier to analyze it, is what I'm saying. Eric says he bought 42K and asks me whether I think it's dumb to de-risk here and wait for breakout. Whenever I do that, the candle is always a god candle above the level and I can't get an entry, it seems. If you bought 42, 42 is not that good of an entry. It's not bad, obviously, because like whenever you say like, hey, this is not the best entry, but it's below price, it's kind of stupid, you know? Like someone is making money, so obviously it's a decent entry. But like it is pretty close to price and we are at resistance. But I also think like, yeah, you can hold through. Sometimes, and depending on how bullish you are, and this is something that is very, very individualistic, you kind of have to make the choice whether you're better off just round tripping something over not having a position at all. And that I cannot answer you. Because it depends on you, right? Are you gonna, if we get a god candle, right? Like if this breaks out here and then you have a candle like this, are you gonna FOMO chase it at 48, 49, 50? If the answer is yes, then maybe it's worth round tripping that position for just not making you buy the top. If the answer is no and you're gonna still be kind of able to trade properly, then maybe the answer is different. It always depends. When Doug Nanny, no. I mean, like, I think these kind of things you just kind of have to take care of yourself. Especially, like, the thing is, like, you could get someone to do things for you in life, like, if you have the money for it, like, all the time, right? But then what's your life actually? Like, life is all the things that happen in between too, you know? It's not just the things that you want to do or the things that are not exhausting and just, like, eating ice cream all day. I think it's the in-between too. So and raising my child or hanging out, even if she's screaming, is more important to me than anything else. So, so anyway. Hey, Dawn, what are your thoughts on Berniesk? I actually have no idea how to pronounce his name. Berniesk? Still thinking we're going to low 30s, high 20s. Possible. I think if the S&P doesn't play board and if Bitcoin breaks down, possible. But right now, if I just look at the chart, it's not a bad chart. It's obviously, like I said, it's at resistance. Like if you sold down here and you're buying here, then you're obviously doing a mistake. I think there's better trades to be had, but and it's the same, like I said, on the daily time frame. This is the range here. And it's been quite accurate, right? We had a little bit of a false breakout here, but that was ETF related. And then we had like good reactions all around to this range. We had the range high. So we're both on the daily and on the weekly at range high. If those break out, I mean, might as well punt. If that fails, like if it does this, breaks out and then comes back down, I think that's giga bearish. And then you're going to actually get a good retrace. I don't think it's going to be below 30, but maybe towards 35 or all things kind of break 32. But that long, right? If I was actively trading, would probably be worth it for me. Like just taking it. If it closes back below, take that as the first loss of the year, and deal with it. Like that's an okay trade, right? Now, obviously, if this just goes down, could also happen. I think both arguments are really valid right now, like the bullish and the bearish argument, because there's good arguments for both. I think we got quite frothy during this consolidation, so you can make an argument that this was peak froth, and now we need to delever and reset expectations and all that shit. But also, like, realistically, you look at all the metrics and they're not that bad. So you're kind of in a situation where I think you can make both arguments quite well. And this is why, like, I think the weekly is quite nice here. And to be honest, like, the daily is not that bad either. Like, you can be bearish into this resistance and be like, hey, this is resistance. It's been working wonders. I want to be bearish here. And I think that's fine. And you can also be quite bullish above 44, just being like, hey, it's broke resistance. Maybe it'll even close above the weekly. And then I think the bearish view, the bullish view makes much more sense. Froth. I hate the word froth. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan either. I like how you go live, right, at FOMC. Yeah, because we don't care. We are crypto, my friend. We don't care. No, it's just because I need to get to bed, and I would have done this an hour earlier, this show, but we had dinner, so there's not much I can do. Anyway, that's Bitcoin, right? Straightforward. I think there's good setups to be had, which is nice. Keep an eye on those. On the ETH front, ETH just keeps on disappointing. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I think pretty much, like, I think people just look at ETH. They don't even give a fuck about Bitcoin, and they look at ETH and they've been having the worst time of their life. That's kind of my gut feeling. Do let me know if I'm wrong, but kind of like from all the comments and everything that I see, it just feels like everyone is stuck in ETH and has been having the worst year of their life. And I mean, having the worst year of your life when something doubles in USD terms could be worse, right? But I've seen gigacope on ETH. People have been struggling. But yeah, ETH still the same picture, not great. Me personally, I maintain the view that you need to break this, like, come above here, and then I might actually even be tempted to trade ETH, because at that point I think we could get some momentum. Until then, not for me. Like, it's interesting on a dip buying perspective, it's interesting on a higher low basis, whatever, but it's just everyone wants to be long ETH, and I just don't like that. Like, the chart looks like shit. Everyone wants to be long ETH. It's a struggle, right? Like, I want to be long ETH. Like, I'm not saying everyone besides me. I'm saying, like, everyone, including me, wants to buy ETH. But the chart looks like shit. So, I mean, why is that, right? And yeah, it's a little bit of a tough trade, I think. And the same on ETHUSD. Just like, look, you could argue like here's support, right? Like, you have some sort of support here. Look how often it has been tested. Fresh resistance tested. This is how it has to look, right? You test something, you fuck off. With this, you tested it, then Bitcoin dragged it up, and then you immediately tested it again. That is not the best look. Now, obviously, if Bitcoin goes up, if Bitcoin goes to 60K, I think ETH probably goes above 2.5. And I'm saying probably, even though that's like very close. But that's not what you want if you're holding ETH, right? If you're holding ETH, you want to have like the market move up beyond what Bitcoin is doing. And that's not how it's looking right now. USD support tested too many times. BTC lost the range that it reclaimed for a little bit when there was the peak rotate into ETH narrative going, which I thought might have a little bit more legs. I was a little bit hopeful, but nothing. And yeah, now you have shattered and broken dreams. Not great. It's true, Runner was crying in my DMs. I think Runner's been crying just generally based on this, which, I mean, to be fair, the last few months not been that bad in comparison to Bitcoin. Like, it looks quite shit, but it's been sideways for the last 3 months, which at least that's something better than it used to be, where it was down only, but obviously still not great. Solana's been pushing a little bit, but that's kind of like, yeah, it's still in the same areas, right? Both monthly resistance on USD and BTC pair. I still think that if anything, I don't know, like middle of February, if the market turns bullish, maybe middle of February you get a little bit of a good move on this. But it's so tough to justify, you know, like it broke so many resistances, it basically went to infinity, and to then fade the last resistance on both BTC and the USD pair, I don't know. It's quite a tough trade. Like, that is not for me. That is for more brave souls. Me, I'm just a support buyer. I don't like to buy something when it's up like 10x straight up in a straight line, and then it hit resistance, and people like, well, now I want to buy it, and I'm like, could be a good trade. Like with these kind of trades, right? They can be very, very good, but they can also be very, very shit. And then I'm personally I try to avoid the very, very shit trades. And if I take these kind of breakout trades, then I put myself at risk of taking the really, really shit ones. And I'd rather not. If Bitcoin hits 35K, would you buy Solana, or think it's a good buy there? Depends on where it goes. Like, if it retraces into BTC support, maybe. Into USD support. Like, if it goes to 40 and Bitcoin is trading at 35 or 32, fuck yeah, buy Solana. Otherwise, like, I'm probably a decent, like, the moment Bitcoin bottoms, Solana is gonna bottom, and it's gonna bottom harder. But whether it's like, let's say Bitcoin has been doing this, right? Let's say Bitcoin pulls back a little. I think like Solana has been basically doing this. If Bitcoin pulls back a little, Solana is gonna do this, and I think that bounce here on Bitcoin would be, in percentage terms, much bigger on Solana, yes. But whether you actually would want to hold that bounce when Bitcoin pushes higher or actually goes lower again, I'm not so sure, just given on how the high time frames look on Solana, which, I mean, they look good, but they are quite extended. So for a bounce, most definitely, I think you can get like 10, like if Bitcoin goes down, right? And it's a big if, but if Bitcoin goes down, it hits 35K support, I think Bitcoin could bounce from 35 to 38 or 39, and Solana would put in a 20-25% up candle, which is obviously larger than what Bitcoin did in that time. So short term, most definitely, whenever you think the bottom's in, I think there's better trades, like you can take better trades on altcoins. A little bit midterm wise, I don't know. Don, for fellow German tax cucks, would you ever recommend buying margin spot for longer holds just to avoid headaches with tax on margin futures? I mean, the whole margin thing you need to look into, because as a German, you get fucked if you're not trading via, like, either if you trade like very low amounts, then you're okay. Like margin spot is okay, and mostly, I'm not a tax advisor, don't listen to me, but futures you very much need to be careful of and need to read into the laws, because you can owe infinite amounts of money even if you make losses. So look into that. Futures trading in Germany, dangerous. Don't you get bored of answering the same questions? Nah, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, the thing is, like, this kind of tax question, like, if someone does this wrong, and this is something that you should do no matter like where you are in the world, you should read up on what you're actually legally allowed to do and not, and how the tax rules are, because those are dangerous. And if I can help at least one person by just quickly answering that kind of question, yeah. Is this the law that changes next year? I actually have no idea if that law is changed next year. I would love it. What other altcoins are good for trading besides Solana? So what you do is you basically just look what has been moving well in the last last 3 months or so. So for example, if you look at XRP, it's very clear that this is not the coin that you want to be trading, right? Like that is not the coin. You compare XRP with Solana, like look, this has been up only, has been strong. That is something that you can buy on dips. Even if it's topped out, the bounces are going to be stronger. With XRP, I cannot guarantee you that, right? Like XRP could literally, you could buy the bottom and you might just stay break even until it makes a new low. And then there's some hype coins, you know, like always, where you like say whatever, same kind of deal. It's been moving quite well. Whenever you see a bottom, that's probably going to move better. But you just look at what has performed well recently, and it's all you have to do for altcoin picks. That might change at some point, and it has. Like back in the day, you had sectoral kind of rotations, so like privacy coins would go up, and then like you would just rotate from sector to sector basically. Like you had the gold narrative, so Bitcoin, Litecoin, whatever would go up, privacy, and then you had the privacy coins go up, and then you had exchange coins. Like it would go and go and go. Nowadays, it's literally just whatever has moved well before in the last few weeks to months, most likely will move well. It's the only thing you need to watch. Dumb Solana question, but can you argue that the monthly closed above the bottom of the monthly range and can head to the top? Yes, but it's an altcoin. So like if this was Bitcoin, I'd be like, yeah, maybe. But also like if anything, you'd want it to close above 98 to like this month, and then you could target 120 whatever next month. But it's an altcoin like these. This is a rounding error, right? Like this is the thin liquidity doesn't really matter. This is why, like, so for Bitcoin, when it moves a little, like let's say it runs into resistance, comes back here, closes at that support, that's quite nice. And then you can be like, yeah, it's gonna move from support to resistance. For altcoins, all of that trading here can just be froth, whatever, thin market, meaningless, right? So it depends. And I mean, Solana is not necessarily a small coin and liquidity is quite good, but still, like when I'm trading altcoins, I'm usually not necessarily looking at it that way, especially on the like monthly time frame is quite high, and then kind of saying like, hey, the support is at 98, or like the resistance would have been 98 and now it closed at 100, which is 1% away. And that therefore it's closed above resistance. I think that is too close for comfort for a coin like this. XRP just got hacked for over 100 million. Yeah, I saw. So that's that. There might be coming something about the 20k loss thing. We'll see. Yeah, that'd be nice. But if they just put 20 to 50k, I mean, it doesn't make a difference for me. Like literally doesn't. Hey Doug, why would anyone long ETH when they can long Sol or any other large market cap altcoin? Because ETH will outperform Solana and other coins like that in the future again, quite significantly, I think. And it has before. Like people are just forgetting. Like this is something that's recent, right? But look at that. Like that's been Solana, ETH, and obviously, I mean, this is not the biggest time frame. There's better ones, but just because, like, in general, how that trade is gonna go, right, is like anything like any altcoin to ETH, right? So ETH, and it's the same for, by the way, for anything with Bitcoin, right? So even for, in my opinion, ETH BTC, but we'll see over the long run. But so altcoin, okay. So these kind of pairs, whichever it is, they always will look like this. And maybe Sol is one of the few exceptions, but I'd be a little bit careful on this. Like, I see a lot of people be like, yeah, ETH is gonna go away now. I'm not necessarily thinking that way. Could be. I'm not biggest ETH fan generally, but I think it's a little bit too early for that. So I think in general, it is important to not get too convinced of your altcoin whenever these things happen. That's dangerous. But that's just me. That's how I look at it anyway. I think anything against ETH in crypto and anything against Bitcoin in crypto will probably just bleed out in the long run. And then there might be like one or two exceptions, but picking the right ones on that deserves more brain power than I've got. So I'll leave that to you guys. What do you think of Tesla, Don? Weekly support at 164. I think Elon Musk has just completely lost it. He just does everything I see of him. It just doesn't look good. And given Tesla, and I mean, this is like coming from someone that doesn't do any, like, has no expertise in any of this. I'm not even I didn't even look at this in a long time, but given this basically trades a heavy premium just for having Elon Musk run it, if that turns into like a negative, right? Because people are like, I don't want to own this because he's kind of like doing dumb shit over and over and over again. And this is not me talking about like his politics or whatever. He's just making irrational moves and going off the rails, in my opinion. Then I think if you slice that premium off the top and maybe even add like a negative, this can go much lower. Not a big fan. Like, I don't see the point, especially now that EVs are struggling big time. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Tesla. Hey Don, when you buy Bitcoin, for example, do you ask yourself who might buy from you higher? If so, how do you answer that? There's always people that will buy from you higher. It's just a time frame kind of thing. I think in general, Bitcoin's gonna go higher over the next 5 to 10 years. And who's gonna buy from you higher? Anyone that doesn't have any yet. There's a lot of people that don't have any yet. Now, obviously, short term, like my argument was, I'm buying here at 25. So I can sell it to someone that is just completely sleeping on the ETF high up, and I did just that, right? I was like, I bought 25 and sold 37. I was very happy with that. Someone like gave me that 12K difference quite freely. The real question is, would single childless Dom belong right now? From lower, probably. I mean, probably, yeah. I think so. But who the fuck knows? Like back in the day, I would have just sold in like December, end of December, and then bought back in January probably. But I also like, the thing is, like, if I was in from longer, I can see it. Buying into this resistance, I just don't, right? So, like, if you get above here, I think there's a good trade to be had. And then, yes. Or if you're if you're in from down here and you're like, I think this is going to go to 60K, who cares about the in between? But if you're entering here, like my guy in the comments said, like 42K is where he bought. And he's hoping for the Giga breakout. It's a different trade. Did you ever play RuneScape? No, I actually didn't. I don't know why. I think I'm a little bit too young. or too old. I have no idea. But I played Diablo basically. Like I think I started playing Diablo 2 when I was like, I don't know, like 7, 8 or whatever. Like first Diablo and then Diablo 2 and then the expansion of Diablo. That's my childhood. And I could never afford more games, so I was just always playing Diablo because we couldn't buy anything else. Anyway, any other questions? Anything I should go over? Otherwise, I'm gonna call it a night. How old are you, mate? Between 20 and 50, somewhere in that range. Did you also trade on D2 JSP and stuff? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Good times to be had. This FOMC was a non-event. What a weak PA. Yeah, I mean, who cares about this kind of stuff now? We had a little bit of low time frame volatility. Nothing too interesting. You were bullish Coinbase stock before. Have your thoughts changed? I mean, I was bullish this thing quite a while ago. I mean, it's not a bad chart, but like, where the fuck? Like, it's a stock. I'd just rather buy Bitcoin. Like, a lot of people buy the miners, buy all of this kind of stuff. I just like to own the thing. Like, why complicate? Like, why overcomplicate it? Like, people are like, oh yeah, let me buy MicroStrategy. Yeah, I mean, it's been doing quite well, surprisingly. I don't know how the fuck people still buy this thing, but it's been doing quite well. But like, for me, this just adds complexity to a simple trade, right? And I see a lot of people add meaningless or like too much complexity, and then you can be right and still be wrong. And this is something that happens quite a bit. Like, people like, this is gonna go up, but it's gonna go down first, and then it doesn't go down, it just keeps going up, and they're fucked forever. Like, this is something I've seen a lot. And then also the opposite, obviously, or like, people are like, Bitcoin is gonna go up, therefore this and that altcoin is gonna go up 5 times more. Like ETH, for example, that's been the trade. Like, people like, yeah, Bitcoin ETF, but let me buy ETH because that's gonna outperform, and then you sit in a fucking ETH trade and you're down 30, 40, 35% against Bitcoin just because you overcomplicated it. And I think simplicity is key, at least for me. Like, I'm too dumb to do like the 5D chess where I'm like, okay, Bitcoin is gonna go up, therefore people are gonna position themselves on crypto stocks this and this way, and then the liquidity is gonna be that and that way. I'm like, fuck off. Like, let me just buy Bitcoin because I think Bitcoin goes up. It's easier that way. So yeah, Coinbase could go up, but I think it's already gone up quite a bit. Don, have you seen news of more regional bank stocks selling off in the US? Could be a catalyst for Bitcoin strength. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice narrative, but I don't think it will have too much of an impact. Don, what's your take on possibility of US bank crisis restarting? How bullish? I don't even know if that's too bullish or not. Like if it's just a couple banks, fair enough. I think that's okay. But if it's a lot, I don't think that's too bullish. Honestly, you don't necessarily need to add uncertainty to the markets right now to drive it up. I think if anything, you want the opposite. But Don, how do you identify the top in Bitcoin? By just seeing how crazy it gets. Like, I mean, that's how I did it anyway. Like, back in 2017, like, I can only talk from like what I did, and basically, like, here, I was like, it was getting too nuts. Basically, like, it went from nothing to infinite, and then we had this crash, we had a bounce, and I was like, okay, this is the bounce to sell. I was also like bearish before the crash, so like, I was bearish at like 17, 18k. It went to 20, it went back to 17, 18, then I was very bearish back there, Then it crashed, and then when it bounced, I was telling everyone and their mom that they need to sell, right? So that's how I did it back then. Like, it got too crazy, and then people were taking the 50% crash that happened here too lightly, and that was how I did it back then. And here, I was just like, it makes sense. Like, you have a range here, right? You have a high. I mean, it wasn't a range back then, but you have a high, you have a low, and you kind of have a breakout here, and it is quite frothy. Like, stuff just got very, very frothy. If it loses this breakout, it's probably toast for a while, and then it was bearish the moment we lost 60k, and that worked out quite well. But you never know if that's the top or not. So, like, I was like, this one I knew top was in. This one I was just like, this is bearish, that we lost the range, or like the breakout, and then just went from there. So, I mean, you don't necessarily even have to figure out that it's the top. You just have to kind of know what to do in certain situations. Like, for example, like, if you had a breakout here and then you lost the range, will obviously not be the greatest. It's not as significant of a signal as this was, but then you might want to de-risk going into lower levels. But yeah, I don't know. It just depends. There's no recipe for this. Look at Bitcoin, like low time frames. There's nothing there. Low time frame is for me the daily, and that's pushing into resistance, which is good. I think in general the fact that it actually went back to resistance is good news. So now we just need it to break and hold above. So no belief in pi cycles for you? No, not really. But yeah, I think that's enough. I'm getting tired, and I think I've said enough. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming by. It's always fun. Thanks for the questions and comments and everything. I hope you're not bored by me talking for an hour about Bitcoin. Just saying that seems insane to me, but few people show up every week, so apparently some people like to watch it, so I appreciate that. Also, big thank you to Wu for sticking with us. Really appreciate their support. Like I said at the beginning, go check them out. Links are in the description. And yeah, I wish you a good rest of the week, and we'll see each other or talk to each other, or you guys might listen to me. I don't know. Soon. Much love. Bye bye.